All right, the next piece is the follow-up. So this is very straightforward. The follow-up is the same. Nothing is changing about how you follow up with somebody after an interview, if you're in person or if you're virtual. I think if anything, follow up is a little bit easier virtually because you can do it immediately. You know, you're not leaving an office, you're not having to go anywhere. You can just pull up your email, type it up, and then send that off to them as soon as the interview is over. And maybe even have that typed up and ready to go before the interview is done. Um, just a couple of things to check off. So after you interview, you should always send a thank you email or a card. So depending on frankly how much I want the job, I would send thank you emails and a handwritten letter to them thanking them for the interview. Um, but at the very least, you should be sending your interview a thank you email. And in that email, make sure you're indicating something that you learned or gained from that conversation, right? So you maybe found something really interesting about the company that you learned, or you found something, you had a question that you wanted to ask them, or that they maybe asked you a question and then you're following up on that question in your response. So always try to be, add something to the conversation and show them that you're really interested in the position in that thank you message, whether it's both the email and the card or just the email. And the next piece is, and this will probably be handled by the person scheduling you, but definitely check when you're supposed to hear back about the position. So maybe that's asking the HR person, am I going to hear back about in 2 weeks? Or in the interview, asking if they expect to let you know within 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever it is, or within 1 week. And then after that deadline passes, make sure you're following up. So if they say you'll hear back from us within a week and a week passes and you haven't heard anything, do not wait 2 weeks. Make sure you wait on that 7th day or that 5th day, whatever you're counting as the week, you send that email and ask them for follow-up, and just say that you're checking in because we want to make sure that they know you're still interested and that you haven't gotten your response yet. You can go crazy sometimes with technology and with the fact that it has a mind of its own. You can't control it. So really just take a deep breath, take a step back for yourself and say, you might be freaking out trying to get the thing connected again. But the worst thing is that you're freaking out and then you bring that energy back into the interview once you get reconnected, because then you're not going to be able to do your best in the rest of that session. So really, as you're reconnecting or right when it starts again, just take a deep breath, take a moment, take a pause for yourself, apologize to the person that you're interviewing with. Obviously it's not your fault necessarily, but still just say that apology so you give yourself a little bit of time. They'll most likely understand because that's just the world we live in right now, and it's happening to everyone. But really, I would say just focus on not panicking and not bringing that, and if you do panic, not bringing that energy into the interview, because as soon as you do, you're going to start falling off in your answers and not doing the best you can, and then you're going to be mad at yourself afterwards because you could have done better. So really just taking time to stop for a second, breathe a couple times, and then go in ready to go for the rest of the interview.
How quickly should you send the thank you email? And then there's a question about how long should the thank you note be?
Good, yes, it's a good question. So my advice would be, as quickly as possible, maybe not the second you're done, but, wait 5 minutes, 10 minutes or so. I actually usually impressed when somebody sends it to me very quickly because then you're still top of mind for the person. You don't want to go, at most, I would say you want to go to the end of the day because by the next day, the person has moved on most likely. So you do want to get you want to remind them of who you are and what your interest is as soon as possible. The length should be short. It should not be more than, 3 sentences or so, maybe 4 sentences. It should not be paragraphs. I always tend to keep them very short, and I like them when they are short. There's usually because, if you're writing 2 or 3 paragraphs in the thank you message, you're not necessarily adding something that you didn't say during the interview, or you're not adding something that the person frankly wants to hear in an email. And if you are doing that, then you should have said it during your interview. There are situations where maybe someone asks you to follow up on something, or like they'll ask you a question and you say, oh, I'll follow up on my thank you message, or they'll ask you to send them something. In those cases, it's fine. And of course, answer the question to whatever extent you need to, or send them whatever material you need to. But if it's just a regular thank you message, I would keep it very short and sweet because they want to see that you're interested. They want to hear the thank you, but they don't necessarily want to read, all the other things that you're interested in wanting to do.
Make sure to check out the My Career tab on the BC Navigator app. where you can track your career progress based on the amount of credits you've earned, stay updated on upcoming events from the Magner Center, and watch our videos for insight and advice on your career field.